Dumb Husky and his white cat Shizun. Chapter 190. Shizun again in seclusion. After that day, Chu Wanning and Mo Ran didn't get the chance to meet in private again. The unexpected rainstorms that had yet to stop in the middle of Sichuan turned up to be a demonic phenomenon. A large number of dead fish and shrimps appeared in the surging rivers outside White Emperor City. A large number of vicious aquatic-type demons had also appeared. Almost all the elders and various disciples of Shi Sheng Peak rushed to every village to exterminate demons. Because Chu Wanning and Mo Ran were both extremely powerful, it would be a waste of strength to send them both in one place. Thus, one was sent to Three Gorges Port and the other went to Yi Province. In the hundreds of years of history of the Rufeng sect, the sect had captured countless demons and beasts and confined them in their golden drum pagoda. Once the pagoda was destroyed, the released malevolent beings wreaked havoc all around. As a result, in addition to Sichuan area, the peaceful areas of Yangzhou, Leizhou, and Suzhou, which were originally under the watch of the upper cultivation world, were besieged by demons and beasts who preyed on human and massacring a number of civilians. For a time, many sects' manpower and resources were stretched thin, and therefore the search for Su Xuanglin's whereabouts became even slower. Mo Ran's spiritual power was amazing. Now that he was even more stable, it only took him merely 4 days to resolve matters in Yi Province. When he returned to Shi Sheng Peak, he heard that Chu Wanning had already returned. He couldn't help but feel happy. Not caring to rest from his travels, he wanted to go right away to the Red Lotus Pavilion to see him. However, the water pavilion's door was closed. When he asked again, Xue Zhenyang answered, looking at him strangely, "He's in closed-door meditation." "Didn't Yu Heng tell you? He's in seclusion again." Mo Ran was shocked. "Is Shizun injured?" "What injury? Isn't it because of his mental cultivation method? He has to go into closed-door meditation every 7 years. Last time, when he was in closed-door meditation, you even look after him yourself. How could you forget?" When Xue Zhenyang said this, Mo Ran suddenly remembered that there was indeed such a matter. He first came to know about it half a year after he became Chu Wanning's disciple, when his Shizun went into one such seclusions. Chu Wanning said that it was because when he was young, he was impatient to advance his cultivation and aggravated an old illness in the process. Although it wasn't a big problem, he had to go into closed-door meditation every 7 years for 10 days. In these 10 days, Grandmaster Chu's cultivation would weaken to the point where he was close to a normal mortal. He needed to meditate and cultivate in order to recover. During this period of time, he would only have a couple of hours to recover his spiritual sense, drink water, and eat some food. For the rest of the time, he couldn't be disturbed and he shouldn't be injured. Therefore, Chu Wanning would set up the strongest barrier around the Red Lotus Pavilion in advance, only allowing Xue Zhenyang, Xue Meng, Shi Mei, and Mo Ran to enter in case something came up. The last time Chu Wanning went into seclusion, it was a short time after the plucking flower conflict. After he was punished by Chu Wanning, he was somewhat disheartened, so he didn't accompany his Shizun during that 10 days of seclusion. Instead, he ended up helping his uncle organize the library. Thinking of the past, Mo Ran felt uneasy, so he immediately said, "I'll go see him." "You don't have to." Before he entered seclusion, he said that just like last time, Xue Meng will be with him for the first 3 days, Shi Mei will replace him for the next 3 days, and then for the last 4 days, you can accompany him. "I just want to take a look at him." "What's there to see?" Xue Zhenyang said with a smile, "Last time, didn't Meng and Shi Mei accompany him? What are you worried about? Moreover, if you go, Meng will see you and may end up arguing with you. It won't be good if you disturb Yu Heng." Mo Ran thought about it and agreed, so he didn't go. However, he couldn't sleep that night. When he thought about how Xue Meng was alone with Chu Wanning in the Red Lotus Pavilion, he felt jealous and anxious. Of course, he knew that Xue Meng was innocent and didn't have any interest in men, but he still felt uncomfortable and awkward. He tossed and turned for most of the night and only managed to sleep for 2 to 4 hours at most when the sun was about to rise. After waking up, Moran felt that he couldn't bear it no longer. He still couldn't help but want to see Chu Wanning, even if it was from afar. Although the Red Lotus Pavilion's door was closed and there were barriers surrounding it, Moran was Chu Wanning's disciple, so the barriers would not obstruct him. As for the wooden door made of green bamboo, it was nothing more than a decoration. Moran used his qinggong and smoothly landed in the courtyard. Whenever Chu Wanning meditated and cultivated, he would sit in the bamboo pavilion deep in the lotus pond. It should be the same this time. As expected, he saw from afar that on the misty pond, among the lotus leaves, there was an elegant bamboo pavilion. Chu Wanning sat quietly on the ground, his white clothes were spread out around him. Xuemeng was standing beside him. He probably felt that the sun was shining brightly outside, so he tied up one side of the snow gauze so that her Shizun could also bask in the sun's warmth. The first rays of the winter sun entered the pavilion, illuminating Chu Wanning's slightly pale face. Probably because he felt this warmth while meditating, his face gradually regained some color. After a while, Chu Wanning's forehead gradually dripped with sweat due to the circulation of the qi in his body. Xuemeng took a snow-white handkerchief and wiped it for him. After he was done, he couldn't help but raise his head and look left and right. He muttered, "That's so strange. Why do I feel like someone is staring at me?" Moran was indeed staring at him. His expression seemed calm but his heart was in turmoil. He felt that Xuemeng held the handkerchief and wiped Chu Wanning's forehead a little too long, his distance was a little too close and the look in his eyes was a little too ambiguous. In short, he was throwing all kinds of groundless accusations at Xuemeng in his mind which made him feel unhappy and irritated. Irritated and frustrated, Moran couldn't stand it anymore. He was unwilling to stay here and suffer like this, so he decided to leave. However, he was careless this time and moved a little too loudly. Xuemeng immediately threw out a glittering plum blossom dart full of spiritual power as he shouted sternly, "Who's there?" The plum blossom dart was a small matter. He caught it with his bare hands. But when he heard him shout, Moran's heart almost jumped to his throat. He hurriedly rushed out of the bamboo forest, across the lotus pond and lightly jumped into the bamboo pavilion. Xuemeng opened his eyes wide and said in shock, "How did you?" "Softer." Moran immediately covered his mouth and said in a low voice, "Why did you have to shout so loudly?" "Woo." Xuemeng struggled for a long time before he suddenly broke free from Moran's hand. His face was flushed red, and he angrily ran his fingers through his messy hair. He said angrily, "You're still talking about me? Why were you hiding in the bushes like a little thief? I was afraid that you would be as noisy as you are now. Shizun wouldn't hear me even if I shout." Xuemeng said angrily, "Didn't you see the sound blocking barrier?" Shizun cast a sound blocking barrier around himself. "Unless you break the barrier, he can't hear you even if you shout into his ear." He continued to ramble while Moran got momentarily stunned. "Sound blocking barrier? Then why did Uncle say that he was afraid that I would disturb Shizun? My father must have thought that you were probably tired after coming back from Yi province, so he wanted you to rest first." Xuemeng was speechless. How could you easily believe his words? Why didn't you think about it first? Every time Shizun goes into closed-door cultivation, he always casts this or that barrier on himself beforehand so that we can feel more comfortable next to him. You don't even use your brain. You're so stupid. Moran. Seeing that Moran was about to sit down in the pavilion, Xuemeng hurriedly pulled him back. "Hey, what are you doing?" Moran said, "Since that's the case, I'll stay too." Xuemeng said, "Who wants you to stay?" "We agreed that I'd be the one who will stay with Shizun for the first 3 days. You're trying to be extra filial to Shizun again. Go, don't steal my job." Can you take care of him by yourself? Why can I not take care of him by myself? It's not the first time I've taken care of Shizun while his enclosed door meditation. Seeing that Xuemeng was angry, Moran didn't know what to say. After hesitating for a while, he decided that he should just leave. But then he suddenly saw a teacup on the table. The leaves were wide, the color was dark and there was a faint fragrance coming from it. He asked, "Is this the cold fragrance snow tea from Kunlun?" "Huh? How did you know?" How could he not know? This tea was Xuemeng's favorite. Xuemeng was always willing to share his favorite things to Shizun, but he didn't think carefully about whether these things were suitable for Chu Wanning or not. The cold fragrance snow tea is cold. Master has a cold constitution. If you give him this tea, will he feel comfortable? Xuemeng was stunned for a moment. Then his face got a little red. He explained in embarrassment, "I didn't think about that. I only know that the cold fragrance snow tea is good tea. Go exchange it for some rose tea and add 2 spoonfuls of honey. When he wakes up, make the tea for him to drink. I'll go make some snacks and bring them to you in a while." Xuemeng wanted to save some face for himself and hurriedly said, "Shizun can't eat snack. He was supposed to be fasting for these 10 days. I know, but uncle said it's okay to eat a little." Moran said. He waved his hand and left the bamboo pavilion. He walked out of the water pavilion. "See you later." Xuemeng stared at his back. He was in a daze for a while. When Moran had walked a distance away, he lowered his head and couldn't help but look at the side of Shizun's neck, the faint purple mark he accidentally saw yesterday. Under the sunlight, it was even clearer. It didn't look like a mosquito bite, nor was it a wound. Xuemeng was no longer as naive as a 14 or 15-year-old person. Although there were some things that he hadn't experienced yet, it didn't mean that he was completely ignorant. This mark on Chu Wanning's neck made him very uneasy. All sort of thoughts ran through his head, especially about what he heard that day in the back of the mountain. He kept telling himself that it was the sound of the wind, just the sound of the wind. But that vague haze in his heart seemed to envelop him again. Under the dense fog, there seemed to be something strange that was gradually revealing its original appearance. Under the warm sun, Xuemeng didn't know why, but he suddenly felt very uncomfortable. He couldn't help but shiver and frown. Because of this uneasiness, on the 6th day of Chu Wanning's seclusion, Xuemeng made a decision. He planned to secretly follow Moran and see what was going on. This was the last day that Shimei took care of Chu Wanning. The exchange of assignment was supposed to happen at midnight, but Moran had eaten dinner at the Menpo Hall early that day. He took a box of snacks and went straight to the Red Lotus Pavilion. Xuemeng didn't expect that he would want to take Shimei's place at this time. He had to leave his meal unfinished and chased after him. He followed him all the way to the Red Lotus Pavilion. Moran walked in from the front door. He paused for a while, then repeated what he had done before and climbed over the wall to enter. At this time, the sun had not yet set but the crescent moon had already risen. The sky had been stripped of its colorful makeup, leaving only the remnants of redness at the side. The magnificent sunset glow had already faded away and the stars were like water, swallowed up by the dark night. Moran carried the food box and watched from afar as Shimei walked into the bamboo pavilion with his back to him. He didn't seem to hear that Moran has arrived as he stopped in front of Chu Wanning. Moran smiled and was about to greet him when he suddenly saw Shimei's hand flash with a cold light. He pointed at Chu Wanning, who was meditating. Moran stared blankly for a moment. His mind flashed and he suddenly shouted, "Shimei!" A chill ran down his spine and his hair stood on end. In his 2 lives, he had experienced too many life and death separations. To this day, even the slightest movement could make him nervous. As the saying goes, once bitten, twice shy. This part of Red Lotus Pavilion once held Chu Wanning's dead body for 2 years, until the day of his suicide. He actually didn't like this place very much. Whenever he stepped into this pavilion, he couldn't help but think of the last days of his previous life. Chu Wanning laying in the lotus pond, his eyes closed forever, no longer alive. Therefore, he subconsciously felt that this part of the Red Lotus Pavilion was a forbidding place with a bottomless throat that would swallow the last flame in the world. Shi Mei turned his head and lowered his hand. The silver light was hidden in his sleeve. Mo Ran? Why are you here? Mo Ran's heart was beating wildly. He couldn't catch his breath. He didn't care about anything else. He frowned and said, "In your hand." "My hand." Shi Mei was stunned. He raised his hand again and it became visible that he was holding a comb. It was made of pure silver and the back of the comb was inlaid with spirit stone slags that could soothe the meridians. Mo Ran was at a loss for words. After a while, he said, "You are combing Shizun's hair." "Yes." "What's wrong?" Shi Mei looked him up and down. Then, he frowned slightly. "You don't look well. Did something happen outside?" "No, I was just..." He couldn't finish his sentence. His face turned from pale to slightly red. Fortunately, the night was dark, so no one could see clearly. After a while, Mo Ran turned his face slightly and coughed. "It's nothing." Shi Mei still looked at him silently. Then, he seemed to understand something. His expression was slightly dazed. He said hesitantly, "Were you thinking that?" Mo Ran hurriedly said, "I didn't." After all, Shi Mei was someone who treated him very well. He was someone he saw as family. Mo Ran was also shocked by his misunderstanding at that moment. He felt very sorry for Shi Mei, so he blurted out, "I didn't." Shi Mei didn't speak. After a long pause, he said, "Aran." I haven't even finished what I was saying." Shi Mei sighed softly. "Why are you in such a hurry to deny it?" As soon as he said this, it was clear that Shi Mei understood that Mo Ran had mistaken the silver comb in his hand for a fierce blade. Even though this fear was born of Chu Wanning's death in 2 lifetimes, no matter who was standing with their back to Mo Ran, whether it was Xuemeng or Xue Zhenyang, he would probably tremble at that moment. However, facing Shi Mei, Mo Ran calmed down. His heart still felt pained. He lowered his eyes and said, "I'm sorry." For as long as he knew him, Shi Mei was always gentle and kind when dealing with people and problems. He was rarely cold to others nor did he like scolding others. But that night, beside the lotus pond, Shi Mei looked at Mo Ran for a long time without saying anything. The wind was blowing, making the lotus leaves in the pond flipped and the red lotuses danced. Shi Mei said, "It's fine that you're not as nice to me as you used to be. But Aran, we've known each other for almost 10 years. How can you bear in your heart to think of me that way?" His voice was gentle and calm. There wasn't much anger in it, nor was there the slightest bit of grief. Mo Ran looked into his eyes. Those 2 pools of cold spring water seemed to have seen through everything, but he didn't want to care about it, nor did he want to say anything about it. Shi Mei handed the silver comb to Mo Ran. He said lightly, before Shizun closed his eyes to meditate, "He told me to braid his hair. Since you're here, I'll leave it to you." Shi Mei. But the tall and handsome man had already walked past him. His footsteps were gentle, but he didn't look back. He left the Red Lotus Pavilion on his own. End chapter. Dumb Husky and his white cat Shizun. Chapter 191. Shizun, Xueming and I. In this world, the most important person to Mo Ran besides Chu Wanning was Shi Mei. Once, he even used to think that he was in love with Shi Mei. When he discovered later on that it was not the case, he still cared for him and cherished him. Even though him and Shi Mei was becoming estranged from one another, even though this older and taller Shi Mei seemed like another person, and even though he learned that the bowl of wontons that started his relationship with Shi Mei was actually given only on behalf of Chu Wanning, he still firmly believed that Shi Mingjing was the same Shi Mingjing he knew all along. He was the companion who smiled at him and extended his hand to him in the darkness. He was the Shikshan who befriended him and willingly comforted him when he was lonely and indisposed. Shi Mei was an orphan who didn't have a single relative in this world, and Xuemeng was proud and arrogant. Although Shi Mei and Xuemeng had a good relationship, Shi Mei never addressed Xuemeng with familiarity despite of the many years they had known each other. In fact, until this day, Shi Mei still referred to him as young master deferentially. Thinking about those things, Mo Ran realized that perhaps the only true friend that Shi may have was himself. And he had hurt his feelings. Meanwhile, Xuemeng was hiding in the forest. He crossed his arms as he watched what had happened. He saw how Mo Ran had stood still for a long time while he absent-mindedly fiddled with the comb in his hands. He seemed to be contemplating something in his mind. After waiting for hours and not seeing any movement from Mo Ran, he started to feel like he was being an idiot. What was he thinking? Why did he think that there was some kind of relationship between Shizun and Mo Ran? Was his brain damaged? The longer he stood hidden there, the more awkward he felt. The more he fought with his thought, the more baffling it became. After standing there for a while, Xuemeng turned around and wanted to leave. But as expected, they were indeed fellow disciples. He and Mo Ran made almost the same mistake. In a moment of relaxation, he became careless and didn't manage to watch his footsteps. Mo Ran stood up and said in a deep voice through the gauze curtain, "Who's there?" Under the moonlight, Xuemeng unwillingly walked out of his hiding place, feeling quite awkward. He looked away and coughed softly. Mo Ran was stunned to see him. "What are you doing here?" "What?" "The officials are allowed to set fires, but the common people are not allowed to light lamps." Xuemeng didn't dare to look into Mo Ran's eyes. His gaze drifted around. He spoke with conviction, but his face turned red. "I just wanted to see Shizun." Mo Ran's heart stirred as he vaguely understood the possibility that Xuemeng was following him. His face couldn't help but stiffen, but he quickly adjusted his expression. So even before Xuemeng could notice anything, he had already regained his composure. "Since you're already here, why don't you sit for a while?" Xuemeng didn't refuse and followed him into the bamboo pavilion. Mo Ran asked him, "Do you want tea or wine?" "Tea." Xuemeng said, "Wine will make us drunk." There was wine and tea on the table. Mo Ran lit a small red clay stove. In the night, the fire lit up, illuminating his facial features. He boiled the 8 treasures tea on the stove. The two brothers sat on the bamboo pavilion bench and leaned against the pavilion pillar, waiting for the water to boil. Xuemeng asked him, "Why are you here so early?" "Shi Mei should be on duty for another half the night." "I had nothing to do, so I came over." Mo Ran smiled. "Aren't you the same?" Xuemeng thought for a moment and realized that it was quite true. Mo Ran should be the same as him, just concerned about his Shizun. After all, since the battle during the Heavenly Rift at Kaidi Town, Mo Ran had gradually changed. Now that many years had passed, he was poles opposite from that haggling youth. The disciple Chu Wanning saved with his life had finally grown into an upright and respectable man. Lowering his eyelashes, Xuemeng muttered to himself for a moment, then suddenly smiled. Mo Ran asked, "What's wrong?" "Nothing, I just remembered the last time Shizun went into his closed-door meditation." Xuemeng said, "At that time, you were unhappy with Shizun. During those 10 days, you only went to see him once, then declared that you were not capable enough, that you were afraid you wouldn't be able to serve him well. So, you went to father and helped him organize books in the library instead. At that time, I was so angry at you. I didn't expect that after 7 years, you would become like this." Mo Ran was silent for a moment, then said, "People change." Xuemeng asked, if you had a chance to go back to 7 years ago, would you still run away? What do you think? Xuemeng seriously pondered about it, then said, I think you would have wanted to spend the 10 days and 10 nights by Shizun's side. Mo Ran lowered his eyes and laughed. Humph, what are you laughing at? Xuemeng changed his position, one leg propped up on the bamboo pavilion bench, his elbow resting leisurely, his head tilted back slightly, his gaze moving to the corners of his eyes as he looked at his cousin. Right now, you and I both have the same feelings for Shizun. The way you think regarding this matter shouldn't be too different from mine. Mo Ran lowered his eyes. N. Xuemeng's eyes widened, then he looked at the wind chimes in the corner of the pavilion. He said, very good. Back then, when Shizun died, I resented him for sacrificing his life in exchange for yours. But now, I realize that you weren't as heartless as I thought you were. Mo Ran didn't know what to say to that, so he only made a non-committal sound in response. The bells jingled, tinkling in the wind. After a moment of silence, Xuemeng couldn't help but turn his head, his eyes burning, his brows slightly furrowed. He suddenly asked, cough, actually, there's something I wanted to ask you. Go on. Tell me the truth, that day at the back of the mountain, you. Mo Ran actually knew that Xuemeng had always wanted to ask this question. It seemed that even after so many twists and turns, he still wouldn't be able to escape this. Thus, he waited for him to continue. However, Xuemeng stammered for a long time, with his face turning white, then red, and then white to red again. In the end, he still couldn't manage to utter the words. He stared at Mo Ran for a long while until he managed to haltingly ask, were you really, looking for sweet Osman thus rice cake monster? The water boiled and wisps of steam rose and fell in the cold night, converging and dispersing. The two people's gazes met. Xuemeng's eyes were full of anxiety, flashing with flames. Mo Ran's black eyes were like an ancient well without ripples, still and bottomless. We can drink the tea now. Xuemeng suddenly grabbed his arm and stared at him, were you really looking for sweet Osman thus rice cake monster? Mo Ran paused for a moment, then broke free from his hand. He went to the table and picked up the pitch-black cast iron pot, then filled a cup for each of them. Then he raised his eyes and said, if we were not looking for sweet Osman thus rice cake monster, what else could we be doing? You. Shizun wouldn't lie to you. Even if you don't believe me, you have to believe him. Xuemeng was like a little snake that had its weak spot pinched. The hand on his knee spasmed slightly, then he suddenly lowered his head and said, it's not that I doubt him. Then let's drink tea. Mo Ran sighed, why are you wasting your day thinking about all this nonsense? He lowered his head and blew on the steam. In the dense steam, his face looked so handsome, but it was also a little blurry, like the moon in the water, making people unable to see him clearly. The Eight Treasures tea was warm and the taste was salty and mellow. Xuemeng slowly drank a few mouthfuls, feeling that the gurgling heat had gradually calmed his frantic heartbeat. He finished the tea, but the cup was still warm and steaming. Xuemeng lowered his head and suddenly said in a daze, seeming as if he was talking to himself more than he was talking to Mo Ran. I really care about Shizun a lot, and that's why I think so much. Even the slightest thing, I know. Mo Ran said, I feel the same. Xuemeng turned his face and looked at him. Mo Ran leaned against the pavilion pillar, the tea in his cup was not finished. He sipped another mouthful then said, just now, because of this, I misunderstood Shimei. At least you're better than me, you didn't act impulsively. Xuemeng was slightly surprised, no wonder I saw him leave after exchanging a few words to you. What was the misunderstanding about? I would rather not talk about it. Mo Ran smiled bitterly, let us just say I can think more nonsense than you could. Xuemeng wrinkled his nose, he's a pitiful person. During the famine where people even exchanged their children for food, he would have had such sorry ending if father didn't manage to save him. Also, Shi Mei had always been nice to you, so don't bully him. Mo Ran said, yes, I know. I was too impulsive earlier. I won't do it again. The two of them guarded Chu Wanning in the pavilion, chatting nonchalantly with each other. This feeling was very strange. Under the moonlight, Mo Ran looked at Xuemeng's handsome, naturally arrogant face. This was the person who opened a hole in his chest in his previous life, and every time they met then, it was accompanied by tears and blood. He didn't expect that they could still talk so calmly like this. Under the moonlight, in the lotus pond, brewing tea and wine. Yes, brewing wine. After drinking the tea, Xuemeng didn't want to leave. Mo Ran heated up another pot, wine this time, and drank a few cups. As long as he didn't get drunk, it was fine. But he seemed to have overestimated Xuemeng's alcohol tolerance. Among the four of them, Chu Wanning had the highest alcohol tolerance. He wouldn't get drunk even after drinking 1,000 cups. He himself was considered passable. Shi Mei's alcohol tolerance was very poor, but the most hopeless one was Xuemeng. After only 2 cups of pear blossom white, this person would become dizzy and would start talking with a lisp. Mo Ran was worried that he would cause trouble, so he quickly put away the wine and didn't let him drink any more. Although Xuemeng's consciousness was muddled, he hadn't completely lost it. He was still conscious, though his face was bright red. He smiled and said, "It's good that you put it away. I can't drink anymore." "Yeah." Mo Ran said, "Go back and rest. Can you walk by yourself? If you can't, I'll send a message to Uncle to come over." Oh, he doesn't need to come over, he doesn't need to come over." Xuemeng smiled and waved his hand. "I can walk back by myself. I know the way." Mo Ran was still worried, so he put a finger in front of him. "How many is this?" "1. He then pointed at Chu Wanning. "Who is that?" Xuemeng smiled. "Immortal Gaga. Speak properly." "Haha, Shizun, I recognize him." Xuemeng hugged the pillar and laughed. Mo Ran frowned and silently cursed Xuemeng. Why was this guy's alcohol tolerance getting worse year after year? He still wasn't at ease, so he pointed at himself and asked, "Then what about me? Look carefully, don't joke around." "Who am I?" Xuemeng was stunned for a while. At this moment, it was as if the present had overlapped with old memories. That year at the Menpo Hall on New Year's Eve dinner, Xuemeng was also drunk. He recognized Shi Mei's face and said that Chu Wanning was his immortal Gaga. Then he looked at Mo Ran and laughed, saying that Mo Ran was a dog. Mo Ran looked at him calmly, preparing to secretly beat Xuemeng up if he said the word dog again. Then he would call Xue Zhenyang over to take this little drunkard back. But Xuemeng just stared at him blankly for a while. He didn't know what kind of strange expression was on his face, but in the end, he opened his mouth and slightly pouted, as if he was going to say the word dog. Mo Ran wanted to reach out and cover his mouth. "Tanga." Before he could raise his hand, Xuemeng looked at him with hazy eyes. Slowly, softly, he called out, "Tanga." Mo Ran was stunned, as if he had been stung by a bee. The sting turned into sharp pain, and the sharp pain became numb because of the poison. His throat was blocked and he couldn't say a word. He could only stare blankly at Xuemeng's face with its young, arrogant, high-spirited features. On this face, Mo Ran was used to seeing hatred, anger, and disdain. But this expression on his face at this moment was something he had never seen before. Xuemeng stroked the long Cheng saber at his waist. Mo Ran didn't hesitate to kill the carp demon and seize the Wangsha crystal from it so that he could give the high-grade spirit stone to him to embed in his long Cheng. Without this upgraded saber, perhaps he wouldn't have been able to win first place in the Lingshan Sword Conference. Without this upgraded saber, he might have been reduced to a nameless cultivator, bearing the injury of Zhonyang. Note: bearing the injury of Zhonyang, refer to a child prodigy who was gifted and intelligent in his childhood but become an unknown mediocrity as an adult. When he was sober, due to various reasons such as his pride and embarrassment, he had never properly said a word of thanks to Mo Ran. He actually felt very uncomfortable about the fact he had never properly expressed his gratitude to Mo Ran. Whenever he cleaned Long Cheng, he would be filled with a myriad of emotions. This uncomfortable feeling had only grown stronger after they had returned from the incident at Rufeng sect and finding out that it was Mo Ran who has saved him from Su Xuanglin. After waking up and hearing that Mo Ran and Chu Wanning's whereabouts were still unknown, he cried bitterly. Everyone thought he was only crying for his Shizun. Only Xuemeng himself knew how that night, he hugged the Long Cheng saber as he lay on his sickbed. He gazed into the darkness and said hoarsely, "Tanga, I'm sorry. Where are you? You and Shizun. Are you both all right?" Meanwhile, Mo Ran was transfixed. He couldn't speak and he couldn't move as he remained standing stiffly in place. Yesterday's events were like flowing water, rapidly flowing before his eyes. He thought of the Shisheng Peak in his previous life. Xuemeng went up the mountain alone. Standing in the desolate Wushan palace, he asked him about Chu Wanning's whereabouts with teary eyes. Xuemeng said, "Mo Weiyu, remember and look back." He thought of when he became the emperor, Taxian Jun, Xuemeng and Mei Hangxiu ambushed and tried to assassinate him. In broad daylight, Mei Hangxiu blocked his path while Xuemeng angrily shouted, his face twisted sinisterly as his saber stabbed into his chest, causing blood to spurt out like a hurricane. Xuemeng said, "Mo Weiyu, no one will save you. There is no place for you in this world." He thought of all the grudges, the anger, the passion, the dancing of dragons and serpents. He thought of the day he learned that Chu Wanning died in this lifetime. Xuemeng suddenly jumped up and roared as he pressed him against the wall. His raged as he roared like a trapped beast, "How can you say he won't save you? How could you?" Suddenly, his mind flashed and his eyes seemed to light up. Perhaps it was because Mo Ran stood stiffly like this for too long, so long that it reminded him of his earliest, most vague memories involving Xuemeng. He seemed to have seen two youths. One was extremely thin, cowering in fear, like an abandoned dog used to being whipped. He squatted uneasily in front of the small table in the disciples' room, squatting on the bench. His small hands were tightly clenched, protecting his knees, keeping as still as possible. That was himself. There was another youth, with a face as fair as snow, proud and cute, like a proud and dazzling little pheasant with bright wings. He stood with a beautiful curved sword at his waist, one foot on the chair and used his dark round eyes to look at him disdainfully without blinking. "My mother asked me to come and see you." The young Xuemeng hummed, "I heard that you're my cousin? You look so shabby." Mo Ran did not say anything and lowered his head. He was not used to being stared at like this. Xuemeng asked, "Hey, what's your name?" "Mo." "That Mo." "What?" "Tell me, I don't remember." "I'm asking you a question, why aren't you saying anything? Are you mute?" After not hearing any reply, the young Xuemeng got angry, but then he laughed. "Everyone says you're my cousin, but look at how timid and skinny you are, running away as soon as the wind blows. How can I have such an embarrassing older brother? What a joke." Mo Ran lowered his head and was even more unwilling to talk to him. Just like that, he kept silent. Suddenly, a bright red color appeared in front of him. The person who extended that red thing to him was too rough and it almost poked the tip of his nose. Mo Ran was stunned for a while and then realized that it was a stick of candied haws. "For you," Xuemeng said. "I can't eat it anyway." He brought a box of snacks and casually threw it on the table, as if he was giving alms. But Mo Ran looked at him in a daze and only felt that he was being generous, very very generous. In the past, no one was willing to give him this much even when he was begging on his knees. This. What? Xuemeng frowned. What do you mean by this, this, what do you want to say? This sweet, can I eat all of it? Ah. Actually, just one is enough. The ones that you can't eat anymore, I'll. Are you crazy? Are you a dog? Why would you eat other people's leftovers? Xuemeng opened his eyes wide and said in disbelief, of course it's all yours. This whole stick, this whole box, is all yours. The lacquered box of snacks was exquisitely made. There were even red-crowned cranes and auspicious clouds painted with gold powder. It was a luxurious item that Mo Ran had never seen before. He didn't dare to reach out his hand, but his black eyes kept staring at the box, which gave Xuemeng goosebumps. So, he simply raised his hand and opened the box for him. The rich fragrance of milk, fruit, and red bean paste came from the box. The snacks were neatly stacked, they're horizontal and 3 vertical for a total of 9 pieces. Some were golden and crisp, others were pink and soft, and some had crystal clear skin where one could faintly see the soft red bean paste inside. The young Xuemeng didn't even look at it. He only pushed the whole box of snacks in front of him, and said impatiently, hurry up and eat. If it's not enough, I still have more. I can't finish it all. I have enough to share with you. This young master's attitude was rude and his tone was also bad. His round eyes were rolling up and his nose was up in the air as if he was looking down on others. However, the snacks that he handed to him were sweet and soft. After 2 lifetimes of bitterness and blood, that faint sweetness seemed to return to the tip of his tongue. Mo Ran looked at Xuemeng's drunken face under the moonlight while Xuemeng also narrowed his eyes, looking back at him. After a while, Xuemeng laughed, but because he was drunk, no one knew what he was laughing about. He let go of the pillar he was hugging, as if he wanted to go over and pat Mo Ran's shoulder, but his steps were unsteady and he stumbled into Mo Ran's arms. Ugh! Tanga! Mo Ran stared blankly and then slowly lowered his eyes, lightly patting Xuemeng's back. The night wind blew and his scattered hair covered half of his handsome face, so no one knew what kind of expression Mo Ran had. After a long time, Xuemeng, who couldn't hold his liquor well, fell asleep in his arms. At this time, Mo Ran said hoarsely, Xuemeng, I'm sorry, I don't deserve to be your brother. End chapter. Dumb Husky and his white cat Shizun. Chapter 192. Shizun gave me my life. On the last day of Chu Wanning's 10 days seclusion, an uninvited guest came to the Shi Sheng Peak. Knock. 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 Early in the morning, someone anxiously knocked on the door of the Red Lotus Pavilion. Mo Ran was helping Chu Wanning change his clothes. He had just finished his cultivation and was in a daze after 10 days of meditation. When he heard the knocking, he said coldly, come in. Mo Ran laughed out loud. What are you laughing at? Shizun had set up a barrier at the door. Apart from me and Xuemeng, who else can come in? Only then did Chu Wanning remember. He thus lifted his hand to undo the barrier. A disciple rushed in to deliver a message. He reeked of alcohol and looked like a headless fly. Elder Yu Heng, it's bad. There's a huge demon wreaking havoc at Loyalty Hall. The two looked at each other and immediately rushed over to Loyalty Hall. From afar, Mo Ran saw a huge gourd running around the square. A group of elders and disciples were watching it, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Mo Ran said, a huge demon. The fat gourd was gurgling, gilu gilu gilubo. Seeing Chu Wanning and Mo Ran, Xue Zhenjiang's eyes lit up. He slapped his thigh and said, ah! Yu Heng. You woke up at the right time. We're saved, we're saved. Come quickly. Chu Wanning was still in a daze. However, he was born with an expressionless face. Even if he was confused, his face still looked unfathomable. It's another monster that escaped from the Golden Drum Pagoda. Shui Zhenjiang's face was bitter, feeling angry and amused at the same time. It's a wine-colored gourd monster. Chu Wanning looked up at the huge gourd that was running around. It was as tall as two people and emitted the luster of mother of pearl. The mouth of the gourd was emitting pink smoke and wine. It was indeed the legendary wine-colored gourd demon. Chu Wanning said, "This demon won't hurt people. But it's forcing people drink." The wine-colored gourd monster was chasing a group of young disciples all over the place. As soon as it caught up with one of them, it would immediately split open its mouth and start to spray wine into that person's mouth. While it was spraying, it also made an unknown gilu-gilu bo sound. Chu Wanning. I heard that it would only submit to people who could outdrink it. Shui Zhenyang said, "Yu Hang, you see." Chu Wanning rubbed his temples as he felt a headache coming on. He rushed over to the platform and summoned Tianwen, placing it in front of the wine gourd. "Don't run around," he said. "I'll drink with you." The fat gourd was overjoyed. It swayed back and forth and the crack on it immediately opened. With a puff, a mouthful of wine sprayed towards Chu Wanning's handsome face like an arrow. Unexpectedly, Chu Wanning dodged it, calmly avoiding the mouthful of wine. Everyone only saw a flash of golden light and the fat gourd was tightly restrained by Tianwen. "I won't drink that way. Do you have a cup?" "Gilubo." The fat gourd spat out a small gourd ladle. It was filled with wine. Bo. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Chu Wanning sat on the ground and began to drink with the wine gourd. "Gilubo bo bo. Not bad. Give me another." "Bo. Do you have pear blossom white?" "Bo bo bo." Shui Zhenyang said in shock, "Yu Hang, you can understand what it's saying." N. Chu Wanning said, "I can understand a little of what this kind of demon is saying." The wine gourd said, "Bo bo bo." Mo Ran smiled and said, "Shizun, what is it saying this time?" Chu Wanning said, "It's talking to me. It said that it hasn't been in the sun for a long time." The wine gourd seemed very happy. It didn't know why, but it seemed to understand Chu Wanning's words. It intimately went over and poured him another ladle of wine. "Is it pear blossom white this time?" "Bo. I don't like red wine." "Bo." The wine-colored gourd poured the wine away and replaced it with another. Everyone was stunned and they were all speechless. They watched the man and the demon drink from morning to noon. The man was not getting drunk, but it only made the demon happy. Everyone was dumbfounded. More and more people gathered at the entrance of Loyalty Hall. Shuemeng and Shimei also came. Mo Ran saw Shimei and remembered the misunderstanding that they had. He felt guilty and wanted to apologize to him. Unexpectedly, when Shimei saw him, he turned to leave. Shuemeng noticed it and nudged Mo Ran with his elbow. "He seems to be angry that you misunderstood him last time." Mo Ran was worried. "What should we do?" "Go and talk to him. If you don't clear things between you, I'll be stuck in the middle," Shuemeng said. "Go on, there's nothing you can do here anyways." Mo Ran glanced at Chu Wanning, who was drinking with the wine-colored gourd monster. He felt that there would be no problem for a while, so he said to Shuemeng, "I'll go and find him. You stay here and look after Shizun. If anything happens, let me know immediately." It didn't take Mo Ran long to catch up with Shimei. Mo Ran stopped him in front of the training field. "Shimei! Shimei!" Shimei stopped and turned around. He looked at him quietly and then asked, "Is something the matter?" "No." Mo Ran waved his hand and frowned. "I'm here to tell you that what happened last time was really my fault." "What happening were you referring to?" Mo Ran was stunned. His eyes widened slightly. "What?" Shimei's expression was still light and gentle. He brushed his hair back as the wind blew. "Was it when you misunderstood what I was going to do with Shizun at the Red Lotus Pavilion? Or was it when you didn't sit at the same table as me when we were eating in Yuliang village? Or was it even earlier when Shizun was revived? I went to bring you wine, but you didn't say more than a few words to me. Which one? Moran didn't expect him to mention something that happened so long ago. He was at a loss for a moment. After a long time, he said, You were angry with me that early on. Shimei shook his head. I'm not necessarily angry, but it doesn't matter. Aran, ever since Shizun was revived, you have been deliberately distancing yourself from me. Moran was speechless. He was indeed deliberately distancing himself from Shimei. The two of them used to be so close that even Chu Wanning could see it clearly. It's just that since then, he couldn't help but felt that something was amiss. When they were young, the window paper between them hadn't been broken. Later on, Moran understood his true feelings, so he didn't know how to deal with his relationship with Shimei. He had thought of telling Shimei clearly, but he didn't think it was appropriate to do so. He had never confessed to Shimei, so he didn't know what kind of feelings Shimei had for him. If he rashly ran over and said that he wanted to cut off their relationship, it would be too sudden and too presumptuous. So in the end, he kept quiet, which secretly hoping would slowly fade away. Shimei quietly gazed at him. After a while, he said, When you first came to Shisheng Peak, I told you that I have no parents and not many friends. That from there on, we are family. Right. Then why did you change? Moran felt very sad. He suddenly felt a little confused. He didn't know why he distanced himself from Shimei like this. Since returning from the ghost realm, had he ever said more than a few words to Shimei? The two of them used to be inseparable, but now they were gradually drifting apart. Moran couldn't help but hesitate. Did he go too far? He said, I'm sorry. There's nothing to be sorry about. Shimei turned his gaze away. Just forget it. Don't be angry. If you're angry, I would feel bad. You've always been very good to me. Shimei finally smiled faintly. I'm very good to you, but how could it compare to Shizun? Moran replied, It's not the same. Shimei looked at the distant sky and said, I remember you told me before that I was good to you because I gave you a lot of warmth. What about Shizun? Moran said, He gave me my life. Shimei didn't answer for a long time. In the end, he sighed. I can't compare, can I? Seeing him like this, Moran felt even worse. He said, There's nothing to compare. Everyone is different. You dash. Shimei didn't wait for him to finish. He turned his face to the side. Against the wind, he raised his hand and patted Moran's chest. Okay, you don't have to say any more. I know what you mean. In fact, I'm not that calculative. But I'm really sad that you thought badly of me last time. Let's move on. Don't think about it anymore. Moran's black eyes were warm. After a while, he nodded and said gratefully, All right. Shimei's slender figure leaned against the jade railing of the training field. He looked down at the trees below. After a while, Mora said, Let's go back. Shimei asked, What did you want to say that year? They spoke almost at the same time. Moran was startled. Which year? Shimei said, The year when the heavenly rift happened. Only then did Moran recall the unspoken confession he had made during the heavenly rift calamity at Kaidi Town. He froze for a moment. Shimei said, You didn't get to finish what you were telling me that year. I don't know what you wanted to say. Can I ask you now? Moran was about to answer when he suddenly heard a loud noise coming from the loyalty hall behind him. His and Shimei's expressions changed. Moran said, It's coming from where Shizun is. Shimei didn't have time to finish the conversation anymore. He said, Quickly go back and check it out. The two turned around and rushed back to the main hall. When they arrived at the front of Loyalty Hall, they found that there was a second fat gourd in the square. Mo Ran was shocked. What is this? Xue Zhenyang covered his face and said, a wine lust gourd monster. How many are there? 2. One is the wine-colored gourd monster and the other is wine lust gourd monster. They are twins. The one with Yuheng is the younger brother. This one here is the older brother, Xue Zhenyang replied, looking as if his head was about to explode. Mo Ran's eyebrows twitched. After a while, he reacted. The wine gourd monsters likes to compete with others. That wine lust gourd. He turned around with a pale face and looked at the spinning pink fat gourd. Xue Zhenyang said awkwardly, the wine lust gourd demon can do anything to lure people. It would only submit to someone who is pure. Mo Ran turned his head and exclaimed, Xue Meng. Shi Mei asked, why isn't young master Xue Meng here? Where did he go? Xue Zhenyang pointed at the wine lust gourd monster. He's already in the gourd. He said he wanted to share Yuheng's burden. Mo Ran let out a sigh of relief. That should be all right. If it doesn't find Xue Meng pure, then there's no such thing as a pure person in this world. Just as he finished speaking, there was a peng sound. Xue Meng was spat out of the wine-colored gourd and landed heavily in the middle of the crowd. The movement was so loud that everyone heard it and looked over. Even Chu Wanning, who was drinking with the wine-colored gourd monster, turned his head. Shi Mei said in shock, what happened? Someone else said in disbelief, even young master. Cough cough cough. Xue Meng's face was flushed red as she staggered to his feet. His eyes were filled with anger and embarrassment as he roared at the perverted gourd, you monster, you shameless bastard. Mo Ran looked back and forth and noticed that Xue Meng had unknowingly changed into a golden red robe. He found it funny and curious. What is this? Xue Zhenyang could only hold his forehead as he was lost for words. Shi Mei said, I've heard of this before. This wine lust gourd monster isn't actually perverted, but infatuated. It wants someone who has pure love. It is said that when a person was sucked into the wine lust gourd, they will find themselves in a room. And then, the wine lust gourd's nascent spirit will make a bride or groom appear. But whether it is a bride or groom, their faces will be covered and they will have to wait for the lured person to uncover it. Mo Ran asked, is it the wine lust gourd monster itself who was being uncovered? Of course not. What one sees after uncovering it varies from person to person. If that person had a person they love, then the appearance of the person they love would be seen. If that person doesn't have someone they love but is lustful, it is said that he will see. Shi Mei coughed slightly and continued awkwardly, a naked man or woman. Only the person with a pure love would be able to see the wine lust gourd true appearance. Mo Ran turned his head and looked at Xue Meng in disbelief. Then what did Xue Meng see? He couldn't believe that Xue Meng has a person he was interested in, but he also didn't believe that Xue Meng would see any naked woman or man. However, Xue Meng was thrown out by the wine lust gourd and the monster was jumping and rolling around happily. Obviously, the wine-colored gourd was laughing at Xue Meng. Shi Mei couldn't bear it and tried to smooth things over for Xue Meng. Maybe the wine lust gourd monster misjudged. Before he could finish, Xue Meng took out his long cheng and pointed at the wine lust gourd monster as he shouted, you fucking changed my illusion to confuse me. You even made me wear women's clothes in the illusion. You dog. How dare you humiliate me? Many of the disciples at Shi Sheng Peak, including Mo Ran, were silent for a moment. They wanted to hold it in, but they couldn't, and they all laughed out loud. Xue Ziming was very narcissistic. This peacock probably spread its tail and the monster reflected its own reflection. When Xue Meng lifted the veil, he saw his own face with heavy makeup. It makes sense. Mo Ran tried his best to hold back his laughter and nodded. Xue Meng should be very beautiful as a woman. Before Mo Ran could finish laughing, he heard Xue Zhenyang, who was obviously having a headache, shouted, Yuheng, after you deal with that wine-colored gourd monster, Can you please help to sort this wine lust gourd monster as well? End chapter.